and let us all do we can to build a better future.
I want to read a joint message that was we here at the team at Hardlens Media, Daniel, FaZe, and myself. We want to share with all of you in regards towards what recently happened and why we weren't at the studio here. And yeah, I just want to read it to all of you so it's done properly, so all of you know what happened. So for the last week, you guys may have noticed things have been not our usual standard on the network. This is a back and forth we have been having with our current broadcasting software, Streamlabs. We have been using Streamlabs for a little over a year to broadcast a show. We learned a lot of things recently about the company that have caused us to move away from their product. First, Streamlabs until recently was known as Streamlabs OBS and marketed itself as a OBS product with additional features. This is not the case. They simply took the code for OBS and built on top of it, and is not an open source platform. It is a Logitech. Second, Streamlabs has been taking parts of its code directly from competitors and copying it and using it as its own. Many of these other companies are small-time companies that can't afford to sue. Finally, they've been taking and using creators' images and branding without permission and using it on their website. We have been trying to move away from their product ever since we learned this information. Unfortunately, Streamlabs beat us to it and sent an update throughout the network last Monday that effectively bricked our software and has caused massive issues throughout the streaming community. We are unable to access our account or load up the software since Monday night. We are moving everything over to OBS, but it will take some time to rebuild the system to the level of StreamYards. I guess that everyone will have to bear with us for the time being, and we ask all of you to understand. Please let other people know what our situation is, and that's why we're using StreamYards right now. We expect OBS to be a better platform once everything has been moved over, but this process will take weeks. So this is how the show is going to look for a little bit, but we are back here in the studio, and we do apologize to all of you for this inconvenience, but ever since we found this information out about Streamlabs, we are going to be moving away. So thankfully we got StreamYards here, but FaZe and the team here, Daniel and the rest of our team, will be working on building OBS. So with that being said, let's get started with our first segment. Julian Assange! Had to say his name out loud like that because, you know, let's face it, he is a hero. And Julian Assange is right now being prosecuted. He's going to be extradited to the United States. But there's still time. The fight's not over. And today, a lot of heroic activists and organizers were promoting and speaking out against the Biden-Harris administration for the actions of having Julian Assange extradited to the States. I want to first pull up this one video where with Katie Halper, Roger Waters, her and numerous other heroic activists have been planning this. This was a video that was set before Monday about bringing awareness towards Julian Assange and the real threats to what happens to free speech in this country if he is prosecuted. So let's play this first video, please.
You know, tomorrow is so important, though. Tomorrow. How many, Randy, how many do you think of us will be there tomorrow?
Well, I think that it multiplied by fivefold the fact that you announced earlier today.
So what? It went.
All right, you can be humble about it, but it helps that Gabriel's going to be there. This started out on when we did our show Saturday with you and Nils and Craig Murray and the other and John Pilger. You know, it was just right then spontaneously someone said, let's have a rally on that same day on Monday. So it's mushroomed. Right now it's tenfold, I would say, from what we started with. And I think tonight, with all the mobilization and using social media, you'll tweet it out. I know that there will be a rally on Monday at 12 p.m. right on 2nd Avenue and 47th Street on the northwest corner. It's 888. Forget about it. You just say the northwest corner of 2nd Avenue on 47th Street. And there'll be a rally there, and a lot more people will come. Of course, you know, the fact that you're lending your name to this and you're appearing, you're coming all the way in. Who wants to come into fucking Manhattan on a Monday when the traffic sucks? But you're doing it. And, you know, Margaret Ratner Kunstler is going to be there. A lot of people that I know are now showing up. It's been tweeted all over the place. I think it's going to be good. And not only is it going to be good, a nice attendance tomorrow, but it's going to inspire other people to do the same thing. This is the beginning of a response to what happened Friday, and people are fed up. Roger said it the other day. You know, get the asses of the masses on the street. That's what Pilger said the same thing. We can't rely on the mainstream media and this rigged fucking lackey, state called the UK, which is totally controlled by the US. They're not an independent country. We control them, and they do as we say. And so we can't rely on them. We can't wait for a fucking, it's like a Hail Mary. We've got to do it.
Agreed. And so that's what happened today on Monday. Katie Halper, Roger Waters, and numerous other outstanding individuals, not only on today, but worldwide, have been calling out for the freedom of Julian Assange. And I also want to give a special shout out to a lot of independent reporters and journalists who've been speaking out for the freedom of Julian Assange. Taylor Hudak, who's been on our show numerous times, Jimmy Dore, Nico House, Fiorella Isabel, Craig Jadula, Frank Analysis, the entire crew of Slow News Day, Mika Sukasa, and so many others who, again, like we can name a list of so many people who have been on the right side of history calling for the freedom of Julian Assange. If he is prosecuted, if he is extradited, if he's extradited, and if he is prosecuted here in the United States gives up its right to ever, well, actually, it's already have given up its right to call itself this bastion of freedom and democracy. The press will no longer exist. Free speech and independent media will be put on the chopping block. And that means other countries, since the United States is doing this, can do the same thing that's doing to other reporters of what's happening to Julian Assange. We have to have a free press. And here's the sad fact. Even Barack Obama didn't follow through on this. But yet Obama, the wonderful Democrat that vote blue no matter who, seems to foam all over, he set the precedent for this. And of course, Trump, being the fool that he was, put Julian Assange in this situation because obviously Obama doesn't have the strength or the audacity to even acknowledge that the United States committed war crimes. And now Biden is going to fulfill where Trump screwed up and where Obama wouldn't even go. Let's play this first video. Let's play the second video here. This is Katie Halper bringing about the awareness of the dangers that the Biden-Harris administration is doing if they truly do follow through with this extradition of Julian Assange. Play this video, please.
Well, I'm kind of surprised that Biden doesn't have more empathy for Julian Assange, who's, of course, been locked up for so long, because as we all know, Biden himself was arrested and in prison for protesting, visiting, I believe it was visiting Nelson Mandela. That's his story, right? Of course, that's a lie, and that's one of the many reasons that Biden does not have empathy for Julian Assange, because Julian Assange is actually a truth teller. Not only does he tell the truth, but he exposes the truths that governments and corporations around the world are so invested in hiding. And on a more serious note, you know, from what I remember, Joseph Biden was the vice president of Barack Obama. He was not the vice president for Donald Trump. And from what I remember, he ran against Donald Trump. He didn't try to support Donald Trump. And yet, why is it, I have a question, why is it that Barack Obama decided to not indict Julian Assange? And he decided to not indict Julian Assange in large part because he knew that if he went after Julian Assange, he'd have to go after all the outlets that published what Julian Assange published. And he didn't want to be seen prosecuting and persecuting the New York Times. So my question is for Joe Biden, why don't you actually do the right thing here? Why don't you do the thing that your president did? We all know we have our problems with Obama, obviously, but I'm making a rhetorical argument. And that is that why doesn't Biden cease being Trumpian? Why doesn't Biden do the right thing, come down on the right side of history, so he doesn't have blood on his hands? And I implore all of the media and all of the press to do that too. And I want to end by reading a quote. This is not from me, I'm quoting someone else. And this is what this person said. Okay, someone said, whatever he's guilty of, the motives were similar. The difference being I was a source, he was a publisher. He was like the New York Times and the others, more courageous than they are, obviously, but I identify with him totally. The notion that he's guilty of something that I, the good guy, wasn't is just false. That was Daniel Ellsberg, okay?
Okay, now I want to make something very clear here. Katie Halper is absolutely correct. But I think she knows, and we all know the real truth about Joe Biden. And that is, he's not more Trumpian. He is Donald Trump. Except he was able to put on a polite neoliberal face and vote blue no matter who, K-Hive, cul-de-sac progressives, and the wonderful social media people who have blue check marks went to bat saying how great Biden is, how he's going to return the soul back to this country. But see, the thing is, Biden and his vice president, Kamala Harris, are going to follow through on this. Now, I do hope that, again, more pressure is put on them, but pushing Biden to the left or hoping that he's going to do the right thing is a fool's hope. After all, Donald Trump's going to run again in 2024, so it should already tell you just how much of an absolute failure the Biden-Harris administration is and how much of an idiot or how much of big fools vote blue no matter who truly are. Because this is the kind of BS that we're in. Because right now, under a Democratic administration, a journalist is going to be prosecuted. A journalist who has lost so much of his life away from his friends, family, because of what? The fact that the United States can't admit to committing war crimes and so much more. This is a sick system that we have. Julian Assange has been tortured enough. Julian Assange has been abused enough. It's over. It's time for him to come home. He doesn't have to go through this. The United States, actually Biden and Harris, can actually do the right thing. They can be on the right side of history, but they're choosing not to. So now the ball is on our court, and we have to keep on speaking out for Julian Assange because in all truth, no matter what your political affiliation is, we are all Julian Assange. I want to play this next video. This is Roger Waters speaking. Let's play it in its full entirety.
Because the propaganda that they spread about Julian and about the two ladies in Sweden had already permeated so deeply into our consciousnesses that even Niels Meltzer wrinkled his nose. Luckily, Niels Meltzer speaks many languages, including Swedish, and he looked into it and discovered that that narrative was a pack of lies, completely made up as part of the United States and UK government to know because the propaganda...
All right, let's pause it. Now, this has to do, now what Roger Waters is bringing up is the propaganda that's been used to smear against Julian Assange, saying that he assaulted women, that he's been anti-Semitic, that he is somehow this hacker who stole information. None of that is true. That was used to smear against him. And by the way, again, the key witness that the United States has been building its case to prosecute Julian Assange admitted to lying. And earlier, while Trump was still president last year, the judge ruled that Julian Assange should not be extradited to the United States due to the fact that the judge was concerned about Julian Assange's safety. Yes, Julian Assange's health and well-being is at risk if he's extradited here to the United States. His partner recently spoke to the press and told members of the press that he has suffered a stroke. If he is extradited, either he dies along the way or his health continues to deteriorate and he dies in U.S. prison. And let's face it, after what happened to Jeffrey Epstein, I know I'm triggering the YouTube algorithm, but at this point, why walk around eggshells? Because at this point, free speech is at risk. Now, interesting enough, I have a video from corporate media where, surprisingly, I know, I hope you're sitting down for it. It's parts of it are wrong, and I have to pause it just to correct the record on this. But Mehdi Hassan's kind of going to bat for Julian Assange. So let's play this next video.
Basic principles like free speech or a free press. You have to defend people you may find distasteful, maybe even people you loathe. And with that in mind, we need to talk about Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. Some of you might not like what I have to say, but hear me out. A British court ruled on Friday that Julian Assange can be extradited to the United States to face charges that could result in decades of jail time, reversing a lower court decision in the long-running case against the embattled WikiLeaks founder. Now, Julian Assange doesn't have many friends here in the US. Pre-2016, the right didn't like him because they saw him.
Yes, he does. He has a lot of friends here in the United States. I guess what he's really trying to say is people in the American establishment don't like Julian Assange. That's the real thing. As for everyone else who doesn't know this story, whether you are a Republican or Democratic voter, independent, socialist, libertarian, green, no matter what generation you're part of,
as anti-American.
Wait, I want to make it very clear. If you believe in free speech and a free press and journalistic integrity, Julian Assange is our friend. He did the right thing. He held Republican and Democratic lawmakers accountable for their actions, exposing their corruption and abuse of power. That's journalism. You don't play favoritism like how you see on CNN or MSNBC or Fox. Let's play the rest of the video.
An Australian far leftist leaking US military secrets and undermining our global war on terror. Post-2016, liberals didn't like him because of his role in leaking DNC emails, undermining Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, and helping Donald Trump win. Assange has been accused of being a Russian agent, of sexual assault.
First of all, Julian Assange didn't undermine Hillary Clinton's campaign. Hillary Clinton undermined her own goddamn campaign because she was an unpopular neoliberal corporate sellout. And Julian Assange did not help out Donald Trump. 2016 was the worst election. Americans had choice between a smelly turd and a sloppy turd. Didn't matter which one it was. Both of them were unpopular. Both of them were terrible candidates. And that's what happened. And somehow Julian Assange is brought in the mix because corporate media can't do its job, because when a real journalist does their job, they're confused by it. Remember, a lot of these corporate journalists on CNN, Fox, and MSNBC make six-figure salaries. They're reactors, not journalists. Simple as that. End of debate. Julian Assange is a journalist, and they don't really know what to do. But anyways, hold on. I ask all of you to sit through this because I found it interesting that somehow this was allowed to air on MSNBC. So let's play the rest of it.
Of anti-Semitism, of screwing over his sources, and of endangering the lives of Afghan civilians who worked with the US. But frankly, none of that, I'm sorry to say, is relevant to this particular case. This is a case that centers on a...
Sorry about this. But look, it was recently reported that when WikiLeaks released that information, it didn't put the U.S. intelligence community in danger. It didn't do that. That was a lie. Simple as that. A lie. Just have to throw it out there. Play the rest, please.
Assange in 2010, long before Clinton v. Trump, obtaining and publishing secret government documents. So it's about the First Amendment. It's about the freedom of the press. It's about the freedom to publish without government interference or censorship.
Agreed.
And don't take my word for it. Back in 2013, a former official in the Obama Justice Department admitted that the problem the department has always had in investigating Julian Assange is there is no way to prosecute him for publishing information without the same theory being applied to journalists. Those are the words of Obama's then DOJ spokesman, Matthew Miller. In 2019, the New York Times editorial board said the Trump administration's indictment of Assange aimed at the heart of the First Amendment. Earlier this year, a coalition of top human rights groups, including Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the ACLU, and Reporters Without Borders, put out an open letter saying the proceedings against Mr. Assange jeopardize journalism that is crucial to democracy. Now, I should point out here that the indictments against Assange aren't just about publishing classified information, which is an act of journalism. They're also about Assange allegedly conspiring with Chelsea Manning, then an army private.
Pause it here. Julian Assange did not hack into any information. He didn't do that. Those documents were given to him. He wasn't part of it. He's a journalist, a publisher. It's journalism 101. So please, whenever you hear anyone saying how Julian Assange somehow hacked into stuff, he wasn't a part of that at all. And again, the key witness against Julian Assange admitted to lying. Simple fact. Let's play the rest of it. Sorry to make you pause so much, FaZe.
Break into a government computer to steal classified and sensitive documents. Hacking, of course, isn't journalism. But here's the thing. One of the key witnesses that the US government is relying on to make their case that Assange is a criminal hacker is said to have recanted much of his testimony in an interview with an Icelandic newspaper over the summer. But
can we pause it here again? Sorry, again, have to pause it right here again with this video. So we actually reported this on our Rockfin account as an individual video. And yes, this key witness recanted majority of his testimony. And this is what the United States is using to prosecute Julian Assange. The key witness has admitted to lying. Now, somehow this got approved on MSNBC. I don't know what happened there, but well done. They're kind of on the point, but they're still doing their neoliberal corporate propaganda. Let's play the rest of the video.
That, as most of the US media didn't cover it. Still, it's the use of the Espionage Act in this case that's most concerning. It's not supposed to be used against acts of journalism. And by the way, the documents and videos about the Afghan and Iraq wars that WikiLeaks released in 2010, which included footage of a US helicopter allegedly killing civilians in Baghdad, was certainly in the public interest. So look, if you think this case isn't about free speech and the free press, then you have to ask why some of the world's top human rights and civil liberties organizations are campaigning on Assange's behalf. And if you don't think the Biden administration following in the footsteps of Trump's on this issue is a huge mistake, if you don't think a future Trump administration won't use and leverage and weaponize this precedent of Democrats in power going after Assange to go after the rest of us in the quote-unquote mainstream media, or the fake news media as they call it, well, you're more trusting than I am. Dangerous precedents are being set, and we journalists cannot afford to look away or pretend it's nothing to do with us. Look, again, I am no fan of Julian Assange as a person. I'm appalled that he decided to suck up to the Trump family, or that he wouldn't give the women...
Pause it here. Okay, so he's trying to save his own ass, right? Meanwhile, you got heroes like Roger Waters and Katie Halper and so many other people, and I wish I could name you all right now, who are out there right now speaking truth to power about why we need to free Julian Assange. Okay, but Julian Assange did not bow down to the Trump administration. Julian Assange isn't working with any kind of secret organizations to undermine America. Julian Assange is a journalist. And what he's probably really upset is that Julian Assange is more of a journalist than all of corporate media put together. And I want Julian Assange to be free, because if he is prosecuted, and no, first, if he's extradited and prosecuted here in this country, well, the censorship is going to be intensified to a level which I don't even know what that will look like. But I tell you one thing, it'll be a nightmare. And I am legitimately afraid of how this will all play out. Let's play the rest of this video.
Sexual assault, their day in court. But you don't have to like Assange or WikiLeaks to be very, very concerned about the action against him that the Biden administration is taking. To borrow a line from Noam Chomsky, if we don't believe in freedom of expression for people we despise, we don't believe in it at all. To reiterate, going after the publisher of information that a government deems classified or secret is a pretty illiberal and authoritarian thing to do. It's wrong when Trump did it, and it's wrong when Biden does it. I would also point out the irony that the US government has spent the past decade pursuing Assange while failing to prosecute any of the alleged war crimes by US military personnel that Assange and WikiLeaks revealed in 2010. But let me leave you with the words of British journalist James Ball, who worked for WikiLeaks a decade ago, knows Assange personally, and is an outspoken critic of his. Yet even Ball has said extraditing and prosecuting Assange is a threat to free media. Quote, Assange might be an a-hole, scratch that, Assange is an a-hole, but we're going to have to stand up for him anyway.
Okay. First, I really hate how it ended, like calling him an asshole. You know, it was a real asshole. Corporate media and its wave of smearing Julian Assange. Now, here's the thing. I'm glad that he's bringing up the fact that if he's prosecuted, it's going to set the precedent of more journalists being arrested. Here's the thing. For those of you who don't know who Julian Assange is, learn about him. But don't believe the corporate smears against him, the way they try to undermine him. You know, the thing is, Trump actually gave an offer to Julian Assange if he would give him the source, you know, and so much more. And Assange said no. It also came out recently, Glenn Greenwald and Jimmy Dore talked about this as well, where there was a Yahoo News article where the United States was plotting to kill Julian Assange. This is very authoritative, and it's sick that it's happening in this country. And yet the Biden-Harris administration is still continuing on with the policy of Donald Trump. I thought things were going to be different. If this goes through, say goodbye to a lot of your fellow colleagues in independent media. The YouTube censorship will intensify, and there will be more control over information. And it'll get very scary. Julian Assange must be pardoned, must be released immediately, and be with his friends and family. He has suffered enough. They have gone through enough torture. It's time for him to come home. And by the way, I want to just share the story with all of you. But, you know, in the early days of his confinement in prison, in Belmarsh Prison, some of the prisoners went on a hunger strike because he was in solitary confinement for so long. Now, this is a maximum security prison where, you know, the bad guys are at. If the bad guys can point out that what's happening to Julian Assange, and that he's in solitary confinement longer than he should be, if they can point out and realize that that's not right and he shouldn't even be here in the first place, if they could see that, what the hell's wrong with our government officials? Oh, that's right, because it isn't alleged. There is video evidence out there showing the United States partaking in war crimes. These are facts. And whether you are a Democrat or Republican and you're upset that how a Democratic or Republican presidential administration has been trying to cover up the war crimes, well, too bad, so sad. As a journalist, Julian Assange did the right thing. You know, I just want to remind all of you, too, Sarah Palin went to bat for Julian Assange. In the final days of the Trump administration, she even did a video saying Julian Assange should be pardoned, he should be released. And it wasn't too long ago where Julian Assange did a story on Sarah Palin. So if she could see it, if so many other people can see it, he has to be free. And this is happening under a Democratic administration. I want to play a final video. This is from Tulsi Gabbard. Let's play it.
The British High Court's recent ruling is allowing the United States' efforts to extradite and prosecute journalist Julian Assange to move forward. Now, their efforts continue to expose the hypocrisy of the establishment's mission to, quote unquote, spread democracy. And President Biden recently hosted a democracy summit. But if the Biden administration truly believed in democracy, including and especially freedom of the press, then he would immediately drop these charges against Julian Assange. The British High Court's...
All right, let's pause right here. So, final note for this story. I am concerned how this will play out because the United States is setting the precedent that other countries can do this to other journalists. There will be no safe haven for any journalist covering corruption or abuse of power. What the United States is doing to Julian Assange, the Chinese government can do to another reporter. The Russian government can do. Any government can do. Is that the world we want to live in? And the United States is leading the way. And this is a Democratic administration that said to the world, America's back. In all reality, we didn't go anywhere. Not under Trump, not under Obama. America's been the same. And free speech is now in the fight for its life. We are all Julian Assange, and we must speak out for his freedom, and we must hold the Biden-Harris administration responsible, because if this follows through, if this happens, any other presidential administration here in the United States can do the same to any other journalist. Any other journalist. Free Julian Assange, free Edward Snowden, and if that upsets the YouTube algorithm, well, too bad, so sad, because pretty soon, all free speech will be gone. It's time to stop walking on eggshells. It's time to start walking around eggshells. It's time to start pushing back. It's time to start getting angry and calling for his freedom. Enough is enough. He needs to come home.